So there was a gap area and challenges now for this management the chemical industrial safety is a major concern in unorganized sectors. Why I call it unorganized sectors? Just a few days back, I read one article from one US author. He says every alternate day there are chemical accident happening in the US, and it's not being able to tackle because industrial lobby is very strong, and they are not allowing for things to go in the right directions of enforcement. So where the workers are dealing with hazardous chemicals, but they are not aware of the risk posed by hazardous substances. They are not either given training or they are inadequately given the PPE. Generally, in these sectors, neither Factory Act nor any other rule or policy is applicable directly. Because, India, if less than 10 people are working, the all rules are not applicable. In a factory, if there are less than 10 workers, they show it in papers that we have less than 10 workers, this is a small car industry, so they can violate separate rules. Based on the Central Act, the state have identified their own rules, which are yet to be detailed, developed with subject of chemical accident prevention, preparedness and mitigation. It's a big challenge to bring out clearly on complex reporting structure, roles and responsibility of concerned stakeholders, including minister, department, individual and NGOs. National, zonal and regional level training institutions are struggling for their resources. Inadequate resources of manpower or infrastructures. They need to be further upgraded. There is no standard database as national database available for chemical disaster related things. There are very few chemical industrial units in our country which have state-of-art technology with adequate safety margin. I am talking about state-of-art technology, including the backup system, fail-safe material of construction, advanced instrumentation like distributed control system, and also the essentially the required which can directly take corrective action without operator action. I'll give you some example for nuclear industry. It has been made mandatory that first half an hour operator actions is not needed. The system itself should be able to take care, the safety system should be able to take care of the accident or the incident first half an hour, because operator should get some training, some time for thinking, because accident can happen anytime. And then fail-safe philosophy. I'll give you some fail-safe philosophy. See, suppose some emergency things to happen, the valves should fail to close or fail to open, that should decide for isolating the system. Suppose water ingress lead to the safe system. So in case of there is a pipe leakage, the fail-safe system should be such that emergency water should get injected. So these are called state-of-art technology or fail-safe systems. In India, there is no heavy penalty provision. Again, it's worth repeating, no heavy penalty provision for defaulter of safety norms. Usually, the defaulter get away with meager penalty amount which does not encourage the safe environment. Generally, routine safety checks are also not carried out seriously by the agency. These are all known, but how to tackle that is again remain questions. The enforcement of Public Liability Act. Public liability insurance, it is there for every industry, which need to be strengthened at the earliest. There is a serious lack of awareness existence of provisions of the Act among stakeholders. Further, the statutory provisions to the strictly implemented and immediate relief under PLI Act need to be revisited. So many people may not be knowing, public, that PLI is existing, insurance is existing for each of them. So chemical disaster issues are looked after. This is again serious issue. Department of Labor at the state level, whereas in center, Ministry of Environmental and Forest. So one side Department of Labor, another side is Ministry of Environmental and Forest. As a nodal ministry under various statutes and law. In addition, there are other role players as well, but looking at broadly, we will find out that it lacks multi-stakeholder involvement in policy making, planning, and implementation. Do you know ERG 2020? What is ERG 2020? It's an app. So those who are attending the lecture today, please download ERG 2020 app. If it's a smartphone, it's freely available from Play Stores, and it's a beautiful app for any kind of chemicals. You will get the data in your hand, ready-made, what to be done, what are the antidotes, what is the safety norms, whether it is heavier than airs, how it is prepared, all these actions are available. So this is going to come in your exam also. What is ERG 2020, how it is used. There is a big challenge in educating the stakeholder and providing appropriate training and developing their capacities. There is no special course for them. The standard material data sheet MSDS, what you can download it from ERG 2020, are generally quite complex. Those who understand English, it is in English, but vernacular language, it is not there. So for chemical industrial disaster management, it has to be integrated with the educational program and professional courses. Among recent IT development, geo-informating tools, recent lessons, updated guidelines for the preparations of off-site emergency plan in synergy with the district management plan are missing link. Moreover, off-site emergency plans are not being followed and not being tested. Mock exercise is hardly being done. Natural disaster induced scenarios, including safe structures, storage, etc., are expected to be part of subsequent planning, design concern, but is inadequately addressed. Multi-stakeholders, partnership among the government, local administration, corporate, industries, media, NGOs, and communities is not happening, which is actually far way forward and effectively contribute towards the sustainability. There are loopholes. I talked to you earlier. This dumping of hazards is a major cause of concern as of today. A number of industries are dumping the hazardous waste in the surrounding vicinity. If you travel towards the chemical plant sites, you will be seeing bad smell coming, or some kind of pungent smell coming, or that gutter is full of chemicals, colors, which is going to either sea or rivers and nearby water bodies, which can lead to many more Bhopal-like tragedy situation in India. It has to be tackled in all levels. I'll give an example and later slides how it happened. There is also a need to evolve the national framework for effective planning, monitoring of chemical industrial disaster management in India. The short, medium, or long term planning and the implementation modules of this disaster have to be produced and rigorously followed according to the requirement. Infrastructure need at various level and various stages. Gap areas. That's not enough budget or safety provisions. Funds are earmarked for activities to strengthen chemical disaster management rooted by respective departments and the regulatory recommendation and safety committee recommendations are overlooked by industrial lobby. As you have seen that Union Carbide, the regulatory recommendation and safety audits are not followed or not implemented. See, as I was talking about earlier, that dumping of waste, the authority have pointed out a high level of gas buildup in the sewer, where it is happened in Ludhiana, Ghazipura district, Punjab, where 13 people have died because of the toxic gases later on found. It's a very recent incident. It's the H2S gas, whose toxicity is so high that within 10 ppm, within few minutes, people can die. So, this dumping of this chemical happens somewhere else by some industries. It's not known, with reaction with acids available in the gutter. This has produced H2S and came out through the open manhole cover, which has caused a death to so many people. Steps for chemical emergency management. There are 5 important steps. 5 important steps. First is prevention of chemical emergency, include safe location of the chemical facility away from serious site. Is it happening? Where is the land? If you have a chemical plant, people construct their houses nearby. So that is the gap areas. Second, reducing the amount of stored toxic and flammable chemicals. Who will reduce? Warehouse. Remember, Beirut, how much tons of this ammonium, this toxic chemicals was stored? Building in technical control and redundancy provisions, safe use of chemical and management of waste. This is to be in practice. This is the prevention. 5 important steps. Step number 1. Step number 2. Preparation. Preparation for chemical release includes scenario analysis, impact assessment, which way it will go, how it will move, what direction it will move, whether there is a congested area or some traffic. Planning for training, exercising the response, including installation of a public warning system, training and equipment responder to deal with loss of containment. In case of leakage, how you can contain back, training has to be given, mock exercise has to be done. This is the second point. Third point is detection and alert. This includes the development of system to recognize the chemical event as early as possible. Early warning system is must, and that has to be scaled up with appropriate incident response system. If you can detect and alert people immediately, people can evacuate the areas, but that is not happening. That is not available. So in this respect, I should suggest that decision support system for every industry is must. So based on that, it should be integrated to district disaster management plan. Then response based on that includes the containment of the chemical release, decontamination, management of health consequence and risk assessment, and then finally recovery. Recovery includes activities such as risk and impact assessment in order to design, care, remediation and protection, cleanup and investigation of the root cause to prevent reoccurrence. These 5 has to be part of our steps for chemical emergency management system. Now, these have been again diametrically given how it can be input to each and everything. This is the circle in 4: response, restoration, prevention, planning. The planning will go from organizational, equipment, escape plan, training. The input to the response will go scenery, command, rescue, and clear up. The restoration will come from inspection, rest, and review. And then prevention from system size, characteristics, evaluation, and countermeasures. So this is again response principle: scene, safety, isolation, notification; comment management; identification, hazard assessment, action planning; rescue, protective equipment; containment and control, protective action; restore, decontamination, cleaning, disposal, and documentation. Finally, these are the response principles. Now, the key approach for safety management. This is very much important in the sense for safety of you and safety of others. Do not get too close to the chemical accident area. Do not enter immediately. Monitor through binocular or some other methods. Safe approach: upwind, uphill, upstream. Always try to move in that direction. This is the safety assessment, safe approach, and safe guidelines. Maintain safe distance. You know, the COVID time we have maintained. Don't rescue. Sorry. Don't rescue injured without support. Wear appropriate PPE kits. Don't smoke, eat. Watch out. Fire nearby. Don't rush. These are the safe guidelines and key approach for your safety and your nearby colleague safety. Management of victim: how we are going to manage the victims, those who have already suffered. So for them, antidotes of chemicals should be stockpiled, incident response system should be in place, chemical protective clothing should be there, hazmat training should be in place, medical management system should be in place, primary surveillance, decontamination, poisoning of treatment paradigms, all these should be part of medical management system of victim. The chemical triage. How you have understood the triage, I think this has been talked about by many of our faculties. This is the segregating depending on the seriousness of the patient. One should be high priority, medium priority, and low priority. So that should be case of decontamination treatment for every cases. So high priority: victim closest to the point of release, victim showing some evidence of contamination, and victim demonstrating serious symptoms. They are high priority. Medium: victim not close and victim who are medically symptomatic. And low priority: victim who are far away from the point of release, victim who have not verified contamination, and victims who are asymptomatic. Other than that, in medical trials, sometimes the case of more serious cases are also kept aside to give priority to the people, those who are can be recovered by giving the treatment. So these are the triage principle of chemical victim. Now, general principle: decontaminate the victim as soon as possible, remove the clothes and take showers. Disturbing is decontamination, head to toe, more removal is better. Water flushing generally is the best methods of mass decontamination methods. Keep in mind, in every nearby community should have some kind of decontamination facilities. After a known exposure to the liquid chemical agent, emergency responders should be decontaminated as soon as possible to avoid serious health effects. I am talking about emergency responders, not the victims. They should also get decontaminated. So whether it will be dry decontamination or wet decontamination, first of all, it should be dry decontamination. Dry means remove most of the chemicals, let it be from any of the CPR, including COVID or radioactive contaminations. By removing the clothes, more than 90%, 85% things have been performed. So if it is vapor exposure, skin absorption is very minor, removal clothing, of course, it depends upon the gender where they will remove the clothes and how they will remove. That depends upon the community. Now, in case of infant, there should be special provisions for showering the people, because they may sometimes try to taste the decontaminated water, so you have to be carefully decontaminate them by giving some protective layer. Proposed measures to address the pertinent issues following the proposed safety measures have to be taken into consideration. Institutional measure is very crucial in order to set up the tone of the entire process of the chemical disaster management in India. The following steps have been taken under it. First of all, roadmap. You should have a roadmap and action plan. See, National NDMA has formulated the guidelines. The guideline is to be reviewed periodically. While reviewing the same, the latest international conventions, the changing global scenario, and associated probable risk also to be considered and addressed. Comprehensive institutional mechanism in unorganized sectors. As I talked to you earlier, if less than 10 employees are working, they float the rules. They do not follow any rules. Their things are very difficult to control. That is called private and unorganized sector. This has to be devised by digitally with the support of the bodies like National Safety Council, National Institute of Health Management and Occupational Safety. The focus should be on the localized risk behavioral based on safety, which can be emphasized through analytical research, survey and studies in the sector, also involving the institution. So you need to upgrade the specialized national state level institution for chemical disaster. We can undertake training, capacity building, research consultancy, advocacy activities in order to support the government and entire chemical industry. Further, at a zonal state level, specialized institution with adequate capacity, sufficient resources and upgraded infrastructure has to be institutionalized. Integration of state and district disaster management plan in chemical aspect. See, SOPs are there that they are not being followed or they are not being practiced. That is to be interlinked, and DDMP, District Disaster Management Plan, is very important. Now, I do not know how many people have read this DDMP and how getting implemented, because the district collectors, those who are the authority of this DDMP, they get frequent transfer. So keeping them agile is very important. Medical emergency management plan should be the inherent part of on-site and off-site emergency plan. But this is not there in many of the industry. It should also contain the list of toxicant, their hazard effects, availability of antidotes, personal protective equipments, medical equipments, and patient evacuation plan. So this is very important, but is lacking in all front. The concept of mobile hospital. See, as you know, during G20, NDRF people have acquired hazmat vehicles, that is as good as a mobile hospital also. But such kind of mobile vehicles are not available for every state. Particularly the area where the industrial concentrations are more high, toxic chemicals are high, there we should have such kind of mobile hospital facility also. Regulatory measures. This is the most important part. Regulatory measures are actual driver for implementation and adheres to a robust chemical disaster management mechanism in the country. There are several loopholes. The following point need to be addressed under it. Adhere to the off-site emergency plan is essential as per the rules 1989. The district collector is required to oversee this, govern and update the off-site emergency plan for industrial pockets in consultation with the stakeholders. The draft plan should be prepared by the concerned hazard units and approved by the district administration. The same should be rehearsals at least once in a year in a required manner through mock drill that will give to find out the loopholes and gap areas to strengthen the DDMP. Emergency response centers, ERCs, are mandated, but how many places it is having? Under the chemical accident rules 1996, ERC should be integrated with the medical, fire, civil defense, NDRF, SDRF, police, emergency responder in order to cater the emergency involving hazardous chemical. But if you look at the entire scenario, NDRF is present everywhere, but SDRF still in some states they have not formulated. Police and fire brigades, they are equipped with something, but they are not equipped with chemical emergency management. Strict provision to be made to penalize defaulter units in case of non-adherence of Factory Act, Emergency Protection Act, PLI Act or other act as government have formulated. But chemical units have found to be dumping hazardous waste. As of today, it is very rampant and unsafe manner. They are not being penalized because the industrial lobby is either very strong, government is inactive, or on the other hand, they float the rules by showing the less than 10 employees is working in the factory. So preparedness measures are highly critical, being integral part of the entire chemical disaster management process. These measures play a very important role to address risk management on the ground. The following point to be addressed under the same. This is major accident hazards units wise. A comprehensive risk mapping is carried out. We need to have risk mapping. You know, in Gujarat, in Maharashtra and in Andhra, there are several areas. That area is full of industries. But whether this comprehensive risk mapping has been carried out according to applicable risk of the society of the hazardous chemical category, whether SOPs are followed, it has to be looked into by district crisis group. Further, at sub-district level, and guidelines has to be issued, disseminated among the stakeholders, and the employees should be trained regularly how to protect themselves and others. To optimize the resource, a comprehensive disaster management resource network DMRN has to be developed, under which a database has to be maintained which will provide location-wise inventory. It is very important. DRMN will supplement initiative by mutual aid response group in industrial pockets, will also promote the concept of pooling the resources. To strengthen existing capacity of district level, the Emergency Operation Center EOC to be fully equipped. So all these are theoretical, but actual practical is not happening. We need to have a lot of coordinations, dissemination of knowledge, warning system and contact list for nodal persons is must for each industry. Operational measures, looking at the current chemical industry plan scenario in India, it is clearly observed that occupational measures including industrial installation, storage and transportation of hazardous chemical, on-site safety are prime area of concern. To address these crucial operational issues, the following point to address: install decision support system for all hazardous industry. I know Kerala government in some pockets they are installing the decision support system DSS system to get early warning. Industrial chemical installation storage hazardous is highly critical to address pertinent issue, the regular testing of critical equipment, hazard operability, hazard analysis, studies to be carried out for early identification of hazards. Further, subsequent action to be taken to address the concerned issues. For safer transport of hazardous chemicals, the hazardous industries units are recommended to follow certain procedures prescribed under NDMA guidelines. These guidelines cover specific technical instruction for safe transportation, but actual implementation is lacking. As I talk to you, the enforcement and regulatory actions or penalty part is a cause of concern. Land use planning. This is very important consideration to be taken into account while routing the hazardous substances through new pipelines. Also, prior new construction in the vicinity of existing pipeline. Further, a pipeline management system PMS is to be implemented for better operational control and monitoring purpose, including the pipeline inspection. This Godavari basin in Gale accident would not have happened if periodic audit or planning of emergency were in place. It has to be ensured that small scale industries, medium enterprises dealing with hazardous materials generally located in the periphery of the urban net cities. They should be away from the cities, should not exceed the safety limits, and they should have buffer stocks of hazardous chemicals, as the situation can lead to potential chemical disaster because of small medium enterprises. Normally safety mechanism is not stringent comparing to bigger organizations, corporate. So they have got enough fund, but small scale industries, they talk about profit, so they do not have enough fund for safety management system. So funding and insurance measures. Funding and allocation is the key to address the institutional, regulatory, operational preparedness measures. Following key points to address: concerned ministry need to earmark funds to strengthen chemical disasters management activities in India. Example, funding provision to be made by one ministry for institutional chemical disaster management related to national, state, technical training institute, resource allocation, and further upgradation, strengthening of the same on priority. This is important funding measure. Without that, we cannot control the safety. Extend support towards the preparation of exclusive disaster management plan, further equipment the emergency operation centers. So the hazardous installations are required to take third-party insurance. It is important. In nuclear also, we have the third-party insurance under PLI Act for the provision of relief of victim, but that is not known to the victim themselves in case of chemical accident. Further, for carrying out the hazardous chemical, the provision of insurance of driver, attendants, and vehicle itself is to be strictly adhered. Have I done it? I do not know. So, building sustainability through multi-stakeholder partnership. For real success of chemical disaster management, it is essential to have multi-stakeholder partnership among partners. Why? So there are several people, several like government, including district administration, local community, NGOs, chemical unit themselves. All players have to be come forward and work together towards maintaining the chemical safety in our country. The gap has been observed between the chemical units and local community. This needs to be addressed at the earliest for the safety of everyone. In general, NGO are very, very near to the common man, and they work with the community at the grassroots level. Therefore, NGO presentations in local crisis management group rather, is highly important to bring issues on board to the notice of government. Finally, it is the government job, again repeating, government job to govern and oversee the implementation of chemical disaster management and adhere to regulatory mechanism for safety, security of everyone in line with the same. This is the cracks of today's lectures. So now national chemical management system should comprise these circles. You can have a look on the circle. The chemical industry is the top, then relevant ministry in the government on the other side, and institutional bodies on the other side. So all these things, Chemical Act, National Authority, Chemical Database, together we can manage National Chemical Management Framework. So with this, I conclude my second part of this lecture. Thank you very much and have a safe and further studies in the chemical disaster management. Thank you all.